Welcome back to Infinite Abundance. If today you feel that the weight of debt, financial uncertainty, or stress is draining your body and extinguishing your peace, this message is exactly for you. We enter the 6th chapter of the game of life and how to play it, releasing the burden. Florence Scovel Shinn teaches us one of the most practical lessons in the book, the art of shedding the weight of worry. She gives us the ultimate strategy for deactivating worry and explains that the subconscious cannot work freely if we are crushed by fear, doubt, or anxiety, whether due to debt, health, or other problems. The key to manifestation is to cast the burden on infinite intelligence, the quantum field, letting go of the problem completely so that the solution magically appears. Discover how to reprogram your mind to surrender your problems to the quantum field and allow opulence and perfect health to flow effortlessly. Get comfortable, relax your shoulders, and let's begin.
When we know our own powers and the workings of our minds, our great desire is to find an easy and quick way to impress the subconscious with good, for simply an intellectual knowledge of the truth will not bring results. In my own case, I found the easiest way is in casting the burden. A metaphysician once explained it in this manner. He said, "The only thing which gives anything weight in nature is the law of gravitation, and if a boulder could be taken high above the planet, there would be no weight in that boulder." And that is what Jesus Christ meant when he said, "My yoke is easy and my burden is light." He had overcome the world vibration and functioned in the fourth dimensional realm, where there is only perfection, completion, life, and joy. He said, "Come to me, all you who labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you, for my yoke is easy and my burden is light." We are also told in the 55th Psalm to cast your burden upon the Lord. Many passages in the Bible state that the battle is God's, not ours, and that we are always to stand still and see the salvation of the Lord, the law. This indicates that the superconscious mind, or Christ within, is the department which fights our battles and relieves us of burdens. We see, therefore, that we violate spiritual law if we carry a burden, and a burden is an adverse thought or condition, and this thought or condition has its root in the subconscious. It seems almost impossible to make any progress directing the subconscious from the conscious or reasoning mind. As the reasoning mind, the intellect is limited in its conceptions and filled with doubts and fears. How scientific it is, then, to cast the burden upon the superconscious mind, or Christ within, where it is made light or dissolved into its native nothingness. For example, a woman in urgent need of money made light upon the Christ within, the superconscious, with the statement, "I cast this burden of lack on the Christ within, and I go free to have plenty." The belief in lack was her burden, and as she cast it upon the superconscious, with its perspective of plenty, an avalanche of supply was the result. We read, "The Christ in you, the hope of glory." Another example. One of my students had been given a new piano, and there was no room in her studio for it until she had moved out the old one. She was in a state of perplexity. She wanted to keep the old piano but knew of no place to send it. She became desperate as the new piano was to be delivered immediately. In fact, it was already on its way, with no place to put it. She said it came to her to repeat, "I cast this burden on the Christ within, and I go free." A few moments later, her phone rang and a woman friend asked if she might rent her old piano, and it was moved out just a few minutes before the new one arrived. I knew another woman whose burden was resentment. She said, "I cast this burden of resentment on the Christ within, and I go free to be loving, harmonious, and happy." The almighty superconscious flooded the subconscious with love, and her whole life was changed. For years, resentment had held her in a state of torment and imprisoned her soul, the subconscious mind. The statement should be made over and over and over, sometimes for hours at a time, silently or audibly, with quietness but determination. I have often compared it to winding up a music player. We must wind ourselves up with spoken words. I have noticed in casting the burden that after a little while one seems to see clearly. It is impossible to have clear vision while in the throes of the fearful, limited mind. Doubts and fear poison the mind and body, and the imagination runs wild, attracting disaster and disease. In steadily repeating the affirmation, I cast this burden on the Christ within and go free. The vision clears, and with it comes a feeling of relief. Sooner or later, the manifestation of good appears, be it health, happiness, or supply.
Let's pause for a moment of wisdom. What Florence describes as letting go is, in neuroscience terms, flipping the switch to turn off survival mode. When you're constantly worried about your personal finances, your brain becomes flooded with cortisol, blocking your intuition and your ability to see opportunities. By applying this universal law and releasing the problem, you allow your nervous system to return to a state of calm. Metaphysically, you release resistance. By ceasing to hold on to lack in your mind, you allow the frequency of holistic abundance to immediately reset your reality. You cannot receive with hands full of doubt. Let's continue.
One of my students once asked me to explain the darkness before the dawn. I referred in a preceding chapter to the fact that often, before a big manifestation, everything seems to go wrong, and deep depression clouds the consciousness. It means that out of the subconscious are rising the doubts and fears of the ages. These old wrecks of the subconscious rise to the surface to be cleared out. It is then that we should clap our cymbals like Jehoshaphat and give thanks that we are saved, even though we seem surrounded by the enemy, the situation of lack or disease. The student continued, "How long must one remain in the dark?" And I replied, "Until one can see in the dark, and casting the burden enables you to see in the dark." In order to impress the subconscious, active faith is always essential. Faith without works is dead. In these chapters, I have endeavored to bring out this point. Jesus Christ showed active faith when he commanded the multitude to sit down on the ground before he gave thanks for the loaves and the fishes. I will give another example showing how necessary this step is. In fact, active faith is the bridge over which we pass to our promised land. Through a misunderstanding, a woman had been separated from her husband, whom she loved deeply. He refused all offers of reconciliation and would not communicate with her in any way. Coming into the knowledge of spiritual law, she denied the appearance of separation. She made this statement, "There is no separation in divine mind. Therefore, I cannot be separated from the love and companionship which are mine by divine right." She showed active faith by arranging a place for him at the table every day, thereby impressing the subconscious with a picture of his return. Over a year passed, but she never wavered, and one day he walked in. The subconscious is often impressed through music. Music has a fourth dimensional quality and releases the soul from imprisonment. It makes wonderful things seem possible and easy to accomplish. I have a friend who uses her music player daily for this purpose. It puts her in perfect harmony and releases the imagination. Another woman often dances while making her affirmations. The rhythm and harmony of music and motion carry her words forth with tremendous power. We must remember also not to despise the day of small things. Invariably, before a manifestation come signs of land. Before Columbus reached America, he saw birds and twigs which showed him land was near. So it is with a manifestation. But often the student mistakes the sign for the manifestation itself and is disappointed. For example, a woman had spoken the word for a set of dishes. Not long afterward, a friend gave her a dish which was old and cracked. She came to me and said, "Well, I asked for a set of dishes, and all I got was a cracked plate." I replied, "The plate was only a sign of land. It shows your dishes are coming. Look upon it as birds and seaweed, and not long afterward, the dishes arrived. Continually acting as if it is already real impresses the subconscious. If you act as if you are rich and act as if you are successful, in due time you will reap. Children are always living in this state of imagination, and except you change and become as little children, you shall not enter the kingdom of heaven. For example, I know of a woman who was very poor, but no one could make her feel poor. She earned a small amount of money from rich friends who constantly reminded her of her poverty and told her to be careful and saving. Regardless of their warnings, she would spend all her earnings on a beautiful hat or make someone a gift and be in a rapturous state of mind. Her thoughts were always centered on beautiful clothes and lovely things, but without envying others. She lived in a world of wonders, and only riches seemed real to her. Before long, she married a wealthy man, and those lovely things became visible. I do not know whether the man was the divine selection, but opulence had to manifest in her life as she had imagined only opulence. There is no peace or happiness for us until we have erased all fear from the subconscious. Fear is misdirected energy and must be redirected or transmuted into faith. Jesus Christ said, "Why are you fearful, O you of little faith? All things are possible to the one who believes." I am asked so often by my students, "How can I get rid of fear?" I reply, by walking right up to the thing you are afraid of. The lion takes its fierceness from your fear. Walk right up to the lion and he will disappear. Run away and he will run after you. I have shown in previous chapters how the lion of lack disappeared when the individual spent money fearlessly, showing faith that the divine was their supply and therefore unfailing. Many of my students have broken free from the bondage of poverty and are now bountifully supplied simply by losing all fear of letting money go out. The subconscious is impressed with the truth that God is both the giver and the gift. Therefore, as you are one with the giver, you are one with the gift. A splendid statement is, "I now thank God the giver for God the gift." We have so long separated ourselves from our own good and supply through thoughts of separation and lack that sometimes it takes dynamite to dislodge these false ideas from the subconscious. And that dynamite often comes as a major life situation. We see in the previous illustrations how individuals were freed from their bondage by demonstrating fearlessness. We should watch ourselves hourly to detect if our motive for action is fear or faith. Choose this day whom you will serve, fear or faith. Perhaps your fear is of a certain personality. If so, do not avoid the people you fear. Be willing to meet them cheerfully, and they will either prove to be golden links in the chain of your good or disappear harmoniously from your pathway. Perhaps your fear is of disease or germs. If so, you should remain fearless and undisturbed even in a germ-laden situation, and you will be immune. We can only contract germs while vibrating at the same rate as the germ, and fear drags us down to that very level. Of course, the disease-laden germ is the product of a limited, fearful mind, as all thought must eventually objectify. Germs do not exist in the superconscious or divine mind. Therefore, they are merely the product of our own misguided imagination. In the twinkling of an eye, our release will come when we realize there is no real power in evil. The material world of lack will fade away, and the fourth dimensional world, the world of the wondrous, will swing into manifestation. And I saw a new heaven and a new earth, and there shall be no more death, neither sorrow nor crying, neither shall there be any more pain, for the former things have passed away.
What immense relief this lesson brings us. From this moment on, whenever doubt tries to sabotage you, repeat with conviction, "I release this burden and open my hands to abundance." If you're ready to walk light and see financial miracles manifest in your life, write, today's decree in the comments. I release my burden. By putting it in writing, you seal this pact of peace with your subconscious. Support this channel by liking the video, subscribing to Infinite Abundance, and turning on notifications. Chapter 7. Love awaits you on the end screen, where we'll discover the most powerful magnetic force in the universe for attracting prosperity. See you there. Sleep with the certainty that your burden has already been lifted.